Hey everyone. All right, so today what I want to do is a little side lane away from flowers. We recently just took a quick vacation up to the North Shore of the North Shore of Lake Superior by Duluth and Lutsen, which is a gorgeous place if you ever have a chance to visit. And my daughter was there with us, and it was kind of fun to get a couple portraits. I mostly took pictures of flowers, but I wanted to get a couple real pictures too. And being that she's modeled for me so often and for so many years, she just kind of turned it on when we were standing by the water and started flipping her hair. So this is kind of a throwback to what we used to do together. Anyway, I wanted to show you how I do a black and white conversion on something like this. And in order to show you what I do, I'm going to actually just copy and paste some settings from one that I did prior, and then we'll walk through it so you can see exactly what I did. All right, so this is the one that we're kind of going for. I wanted to go for sort of dramatic black and white image, and I think this is not going to be the final. I'm actually probably going to take it out and use some texture on it, but I wanted to just get the base here. So what I'm going to do is I'm in Lightroom Cloud version, and I am going to copy the edit settings and then go over here, and then you can go to the little 3 dots and paste the edit settings. And you can see that it's a little bit different than the one that we saw before. And that's because we used a lot of brushwork to enhance this image. And I want to just show you how we go from here to here. But first, let's see what we did. The first thing is we chose the profile monochrome, which is the Adobe black and white base. And then I added a considerable amount of contrast at plus 72. You can see without it looks almost better, but I knew that with the addition of brushwork, having more contrast is usually a better thing. So I did that. Skipping down to the black and white mix, I just upped the orange a little bit, which enhances the brightness of the skin. Because most skin has an orange base to it. So when you're in the black and white mixer, orange generally will affect skin on most people. And then effects, D Haze is another form of contrast, usually used to get rid of fog or haziness from lens flare and stuff like that. But it also adds a lot of contrast to a black and white image. So I have that as well. And not much else. So this is the base that we've been working with. And now we want to start dialing it in and doing some brushwork to get to our final place. I also did use a graduated or linear gradient. I always get that mixed up. I always want to call it a graduated filter, but it's linear gradient. I'm going to bring this down as a vignette, hit my O key so that I can see where the effect is spilling, and then go up here to my eraser tool, and I'm going to remove it off of her face. I use the O key to show this mask. And on the hair, it's not so much of a problem, but her face is where I don't want it to be darkened by this. And you want to be careful here because it could show if we're not careful. So we want to just kind of lightly dab. It's okay if it's on some of it, but just not on her face. And then hit the O key again. We'll make that disappear. I can also go in here. Again, starting over. I like to start over. Oops, it's not showing. Let's see here. There we go. Had to hit the O key. I'm going to get rid of these. I have some extras. If you're using the O key, you got to be careful, because if you forget to turn it off, then you won't see your dots, little dots there. And lower the exposure a little bit here. So just creating a bit of a custom vignette. She's backlit, so I'm just sort of darkening the periphery there like that. All right, now on to the brushwork, which is the most important part. And just a side lane here, look there's a little mosquito. The mosquitoes were so bad. And I was half thinking of taking it out, but it actually, tells the story of what was happening. Now here's a couple of options. I can use a radial filter on her face to increase the brightness a little bit, and I think that works okay. I don't want to be too drastic with this because we're going to use an individual brush to do a lot of the work. Okay, so let's grab our brush, and I am going to zoom quite a bit in here. I'm pinching and zooming, and this is far more than 1-to-1, but I want to see what's going on. So I'm going to grab the brush tool, increase the exposure, lower the size a little bit, and I'm going to go over her catch lights. And actually, I'm going to take that off. I'm going to use a separate brush for the whites of her eyes. So close it out, open it again. Sorry, can't talk today. And then I'm going to go over here, brush it on a little, and then just open this up just ever so slightly to increase the whiteness around her eye. And then close it out and open it again. Negative exposure this time. A little bit smaller size. And then I'm going to go right along her lash line here to darken that. And I don't have to go super dark with it. I'm just enhancing what's there so that it really shows. And since, oops, that was messy, I maybe go in here and fill in her eyebrow a little bit, just because I know she'd want me to. All right, so that looks a little bit heavy, and I can always go in and fix that as well, but I like to just wait till the end because sometimes I don't mind it being a little bit more intense than what I initially think. Okay, so that helps a lot. Let's look at the before and after so far. Now I'm going to grab my brush tool and let's work on the highlights of her hair. So I'm going to push the highlights over, and I'm just going to go over her hair here where the light, or actually bleach, oops, where she's had some highlighting done. And now I see a little halo here. Hit the O key to see, am I spilling over? Yep. Halos are one of the beasts of editing. You don't want that if you can avoid it, because it'll show in the print. Okay, turn the mask off. And yeah, now she has, let's see, does she have freckles? Yeah, there's some freckles there happening from sun exposure. And sometimes she wants me to remove them, and sometimes she doesn't. I don't like to remove freckles per se, but sometimes if her complexion isn't where she's wanting it, I'll remove stuff, but it looks really good right now, so we'll just leave that. And again, I'm going to leave the mosquito there. I'm going to go in and just check my dots here to make sure that I don't have any haloing happening anywhere. So that one's good. And this one is just her lips. Those are just her eyes. I thought maybe I saw some haloing here, but she genuinely was sort of backlit. So I think that's a natural occurrence right here. I just thought maybe that looked a little halo-y, but it's actually the background. Go in here to the crop tool. Like that. I might actually use 1-to-1. I like squares personally. I like squares a lot. All right. Now I'm going to look at my histogram and see, can I push the whites up a little bit more? It's kind of moody. I might go down here. Let me see what my noise level is, or sorry, ISO is 100. So it's really quite low. Doesn't need to be adjusted too much, but I think I might add a little bit of noise reduction anyway, just because it's a portrait and I like it to be a little bit smoother and softer, just a tad there. And I think that might be where I'll leave it. I don't know. I think it's a good base. Let's see how it compares to the one I did prior. So this is the one before and this is the one after. So very similar. I might go in here right with the brush to texture and take off my dots. And I'm going to go in here with the texture brush. Like that. Just to make sure that her eye is nice and sparkly, since I did do some noise reduction, which probably took off some of the sharpening. And so this is a really good base for moving on to another app. I could go into Photoshop and I could add a texture there, but I tend to export this to my camera roll and then take it into Mextures on my iPad Pro to do some final tweaks to it. So this is the before and the after, and there's nothing wrong with the before. The before is a great tourist picture, to show real life, and so I'll print that one too. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't, other than maybe her skin's a little bit ruddy, but she was actually a bit sunburned, so it's very, as far as a documentary photographer goes, this would be just fine. But for a little more creative punch, for maybe putting on the wall in a dramatic black and white sequence, this is fine. But I am leaving the mosquito in there because that was so much our life there. I am noticing a bit of things happening here. This is actually the water. This is Lake Superior, and there was a lot of texture on the water because the wind was running pretty high. So what I'm going to do actually here is grab my radial tool and put this over her like that and invert it because I want the attention sent to the outside. Let's see if I can get that to show. There we go. Take it off now. And then I'm going to use the negative texture to just soften that. And it's hard to see, but I'm going to make sure that it's not on her face. So let me just grab the eraser tool just to make sure that this isn't on her face. And then close out of it. And I'll zoom in to show you before and after. So if we zoom in here and we take it off, I guess you can't really see it because it's so bright, but there was a lot of texture in this area, which was from the water being revealed. The variegations on the surface of the water were looking sort of pixelated, and I just wasn't a fan of that. Yeah. That was that one. Texture, maybe even negative clarity a little bit. That'll give, negative clarity gives sort of that Holga-esque look, or using it like a vintage lens that has very bad edge vignetting. I love to shoot vintage lenses as well, and they tend to have kind of this murky, blurry edge definition to them, and so that kind of looks like that. Back to the top here just to double check our contrast level, and I think that's good. So that is the black and white portrait. I should mention, if you're interested in learning more with me, you can join me in my Creative Photography Network. I have a workshop plan for only $25 a month where you can take advantage of 9 of my workshops. And if you want more personal mentoring in depth, I have that as an add-on as well. So thank you. Bye-bye.